All right, so I'm gonna go over a whole bunch of notes. So I'll share my screen so you can see them. We'll go over a whole bunch of notes, which are already on Canvas. So I'm gonna stop sharing that. I think I want to share the notes. Actually, I think I will share them. So we can all see them together. And if you have questions about them, you can ask. All right, we'll get started in a couple seconds. Let me open up the chat in case anybody has any questions. All right, so let's see. We're gonna discuss one very important topic today, and the topic is this: Indigenous Mexico. So why do we need to study Indigenous Mexico? This is like the reason. The why is very important. The reason why is because if you understand Native Mexico, if you understand the history, if you understand especially, forget even the history or the culture, if you understand the language, then you can learn a lot about yourself. Yes, I said language. So if you're Chinese and you don't know Chinese, if you sort of like understand and dive into the language as they speak it in China or wherever you're from, then you can learn a lot about yourself. So we're gonna prove that today. We're gonna prove that by diving into the Nahuatl language, which is the predominant language of Native Mexico in like the early 1500s and before. Then you can learn a lot about who you are and why you do the things you do and sort of like your background. So it's important to learn or at least understand the language of our ancestors. You might not think it's important. You might think it's boring. I actually think it's very interesting, and hopefully, if you think it's not interesting, hopefully I change your mind today. So, yes, somebody had a question? No, maybe. What did I do in my chat? There it is. All right, so it's important to learn this. So many people do not appreciate the language and the languages that are found in indigenous Mexico. There were as many as 150 or more languages found in indigenous Mexico. And we are not calling those dialects, or we are not calling those dialectos, because dia or dia means regional, and lect as in lectura or lengua, right? Tongue means like speech. I didn't mean to stick my tongue out at you, but that's what dialect means. So let's talk about dialect again so you can get a better understanding. I speak a Southern California, Ventura County dialect of English, right? Um, People in Australia speak a different dialect of English. It's all English. It's just different, like little subtleties that make it dialects, right? Just like Spanish. Just because you speak Spanish doesn't mean you understand someone from Argentina. Just because you speak Spanish doesn't mean you understand someone from Cuba. You ever tried to speak to someone from Cuba? And it's so fast and it's so different than the way you. I can't hear you. Can y'all hear me? Somebody says they can't hear me. Can you hear me? Somebody say yes or no, or maybe.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Am I loud? Am I loud enough?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe Esteban, jump off the Zoom and then come back. Maybe something's up with your computer.
They should also go on the mute part and see what is connected, because sometimes it'll connect another speaker or something else that they don't have near them.
You're very right about that. If you go to the mute option, see mine is a MacBook Pro microphone, but if you have like a Bluetooth speaker somewhere else and it's connected to that, then that's what you're gonna see. So thank you for that. Okay, let me share this again because now I confuse myself. Um, what did I do? Okay. Oops. Give me 1 second. Let me get my chat out. All right. So different dialects. Even in Mexico, you have different dialects. People in Chihuahua speak differently than people in Sinaloa and people in Guadalajara and Jalisco, right? I have friends that are from Sinaloa, and sometimes I'm like, what the heck did that dude just say? Right. And I speak Spanish, right? So it's like different dialects. So native languages are not dialects, they're actual languages. Call them a language. Don't call them a dialect. I had a student one time that spoke Mixteco or Zapotec or something. I can't even remember. I think it was Zapotec. And first day of class, she goes, "Yeah, I speak dialect. Yeah, Luz, we have our own dialect in the US. And there's even different ones. Like Texas has their own from like New York and Boston and up north and all that." So the student said, "Yeah, I speak dialecto." And I said, what is that? What is it? What is it? And I got all like bothered by what she said. And I said, "You speak Zapotec?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, then say that. Don't say I speak dialecto. You're kind of putting down, you are putting down your own, you are, what's that? You are putting down your own language and your own people by calling it a dialecto. So don't call it a dialecto. You don't speak a dialect. I speak a dialect of English, but when somebody asks me what language do you speak, do I say I speak a dialect of English from Southern California? No, I say I speak English. When people say, "What language do you speak?" What languages do you speak? You say, "I speak a dialect of Spanish from Guadalajara," because no, you don't say any of that. You say, "I speak Spanish, I speak French, I speak Chinese, I speak Mandarin, I speak XYZ," right? I speak Purepecha, I speak Nahuatl, I speak Zapotec, I speak Mayan, I speak whatever. Those are different languages, and there was over 150 of them. 150 of them, not dialects, right? Dialects, like you understand someone from England because you speak the same languages. They're different dialects, right? You understand someone from Australia because you still understand that accent. Think of it as an accent. But those are all the same language. It's the same language. Dialectos are not languages, right? So in Mexico, people did not understand each other. Sometimes they're similar words, but they don't understand each other. Like Italian and Spanish are similar, but can you understand an Italian person? It's very, very difficult. You know, watch a movie in Italian and you'll catch words here and there, but you're not going to understand everything, right? Just like Spanish and Portuguese are similar as well, but can you understand someone in Portuguese? The same thing. Like maybe you'll catch words here and there, but you won't understand the whole thing, right? Those are different languages. So don't disrespect Nahuatl or any of them by calling them a dialect. Dialect means speech depending on what region you're from. So in other words, you speak based on where you're from, right? So therefore, dialect, like it says there, is a type of speech, not language, but speech based on your geographic location. So let's talk about this language called Nahuatl with an Nahutl. It's not Nahuatl. Don't ever say Nahuatl. I'll kick you out of class. It's Nahuatl, right? Nahuatl, Nahuatl. Some people even click the Nahuatl like that. It's not Nahuatl, right? Nahuatl. Nahuatl was one of the biggest, most widespread languages in Mexico. That's the language that the Aztecs spoke. The Aztecs were a powerful empire from like the 1300s to 1500s. They migrated for 200 years from somewhere in the United States and they finally landed in Mexico. But the reason we're bringing up Nahuatl is because it was very, very widespread. The capital of Guatemala is an actual Nahuatl word. So it was so widespread that you have cities and towns in South Central America that have Mexican Nahuatl names, right? Do you know what French means? Do you know what, when you say I speak French, French is a language found in France. When you say I speak English, English is a language from England. When you say I speak Japanese, Japanese is a language from Japan. When you say I speak Nahuatl, Nahuatl doesn't actually mean any of like that stuff. Nahuatl has a meaning of clear, beautiful, and transparent. So when you say I speak Nahuatl, you're actually telling the person I speak clearly. And people are speaking clearly and they're speaking Nahuatl, right? So why do we need to study Nahuatl? I'll say it for the second time, for a better understanding of your ancestry, of your ancestors. Why do you need to study your ancestors? Why is that important? I mean, I think you should know why that's important. Some people just live their lives nowadays and on social media and have no clue about all that it took to put them in that situation. I think you'll understand and appreciate life a little bit better if you understand all that it took for you to be at this moment in your life, right? Like when I graduate or when I graduated, you think like your parents, like your grandparents, I didn't want to go to my graduation. They're like, for what? And same thing with my little brother when he graduated and he didn't want to go to his graduation. It's like, and I said, hey, the graduation's not for you, dude. It's for your parents. Because he did all that for you. They sacrificed all that for you. I don't care if you don't want to go to graduation. It's not even for you, it's for them. Right. So you got to learn about your past. There's a lot in our past that's present nowadays, today. For example, there's a lot of words that we say that are 500, 1,000 years old, 500 years old, 1,000 years old, that are now what, right? So the Aztecs, if you don't know, because we're not really going over the history, the Aztecs were founded in who knows when, but they're supposedly have their roots in the Four Corner area of the United States. I don't know if you're familiar with that area. In other words, they're from the United States. People think, the Native Americans were the first people here, but there's this theory that they sort of like switched and migrated or something. So the Aztecs are from the US Southwest before the Native Americans were from here, right? And at around 1100 or so, we're in the year 2021. So 1100 or so, was that like 900 years ago or something? I don't know. It's a music class, not a math class, so we're not that great at math sometimes. They left that area and they migrated for 200 years and they finally landed in Mexico City. They set up shop in 1300 something. 200 years later, in 1519, the Spaniards arrived and they took over Mexico. So the words that they were using back then, we still use today. How do we know that's true? Because we found like, well, they're not hieroglyphs, but like pictures, like pictographs or whatever they call them in Utah, in the caves there, that match what they found in Mexico, that are older than the ones they found in Mexico. So that's a huge trip in my eyes, right? That tells you the people in Mexico probably came from somewhere up north, right? Somewhere in California, Utah, Oregon, whatever, that area, right? There's facts that will show you all that, right? Let's see. So let's talk about those words today that were used a long time ago. A lot of Spanish words that end in the letters TE, like tomate or cacahuate or elote or aguacate or those, a lot of them, coyote, there's a ton of them, guajolote, all of those are actually Nahuatl words. So I'll type one, well, actually I don't need to type one, but for example, the word tomate, you basically take that, there's a TE at the end, tomate, which in English is tomato, in case you didn't know that. So tomate has a TE. You basically take away that E and you put an L and it turns to tomat. So cacahuate has a TE at the end. Cacahuate is peanut. Cacahuate, take away that E and put an L, cacahuate. Elote, you take away that E and you put an L, elot. Aguacate, you take away the E, you put an L, aguacat. And then there's also words that turn the I into an E, like tamale is tamal or tamales. Mole turns into mole. Another word is like tecolote, tecolot. There's a whole bunch of them. Coyote, like a coyote. It was coyote, right? You ever heard of Coyotitlan? Those are like, tlan means place of, and coyote is like those dogs, right? So maybe there's a lot of coyotes in Coyotitlan, right? So Sinaloa or wherever that's at, Sinaloa, right? So for example, here's a cool word like mole. You guys know what mole is? Mole? I love mole. I used to not like it because my mom never made it, but I started liking it. I had some last week actually. I was at a party. I'm a musician, and Mariel had mole today. Nice. That's my dinner. Dang, you guys are lucky. So am I. I'm having tacos. So can't wait to finish this class and go eat, right? So mole is like sauce, right? And it's crazy because it's, anybody want to explain what mole is? Somebody tell me what mole is. How was your mole, Mariel Sanchez or Paola? How do they make it? Somebody tell me in the chat or say it out loud. Chocolate based sauce, It's a lot of different ingredients to make the sauce. Lou said indigenous people mingled and traded with each other. The border literally divided tribes. That's very, very true. So some of you said chocolate, which is very true. So it has some sort, some people use peanut, like some sort of sauce from peanut, right? So we all love chocolate, right? Because chocolate is sweet, right? But mole also has some sort of loose. They make it with nuts sometimes. Mole also has some sort of spice to it, right? So like indigenous chocolate is different than the chocolate that we had. It's like spicy chocolate. What is up with Mexicanos getting something sweet all the time and then they want to add them kinds of spice to it? You ever notice that? Example, mole. Or when you go to those like colored umbrellas and candy and you order, let me get some fruta, and what do they put on the fruit? What do they put on the fruit? After the lemon and the salt, they put tajin, which is a bunch of salt and chile, right? Exactly. What do you, micheladas? Same thing. What do you do with a michelada? You got a beer with like a little bit of sweet tomato sauce, and then what? Chile and tajin and stuff. Like, why do Mexicans do, like, we love to feel something sweet, but also we like to like feel it spicy at the same time, just like mole, right? I don't know why we like to like laugh and cry all at the same time. It's kind of, it is a good mix. The Mexicans like are one of the few people that do that. You get something sweet like an apple, tajin. It's like, what the hell? Like, damn, be normal, just eat the apple. Nah, Mexicanos aren't like that. So same with mole. Mole is a sauce, but it's like spicy yet sweet, right? Mexicanos do that all the time, spicy and sweet. So mole means sauce, and aguacat is an avocado. So then you have these like new words, well, not new words, but you combine words like guacamole. Guaca is aguacat and mole is sauce. So aguacate is the avocado part and mole is the sauce part. So guacamole is what then? Guacamole, that avocado sauce, right? So you can go to like Carl's Jr. and you can order a burger with tomato and guacamole, and you just spoke Nahuatl at the Carl's Jr. drive-through, right? Because those words are Nahuatl. That's crazy that the language from like many, many, many years ago that not a lot of people speak is present in like our everyday. And there's literally hundreds of words that we say every day that are from Nahuatl, that are Nahuatl, right? There's things that we do that are Nahuatl. So that's one example, like the words from way back then, we're still using now on an everyday basis. Chocolate, chocolate is Nahuatl, right? So another word that's like not too common, tocayo. You guys know tocayo means? It means namesake, which means the same name, but it doesn't work in English, right? Like Luz, I see you right there. Like if you if you meet somebody else named Luz, you're not like, hey, what's up, namesake? That doesn't make no sense. People are gonna think you're weird for calling them that or saying that. But if you say tocaya, which is like female version, or tocayo, I don't know if there's any Jorges in this class or any Andreses, but you are my tocayo, right? And tocayo is the same name. People who also share the name, but also a bond. And it's like, well, how is that even like, why is sharing a name being like bonded to each other? What's up with that? Well, um, my wife's grandma is named Juana. And when is her birthday? Like July 24th or something like that. You ever heard that corrido that goes, El 24 de julio, el mero día de San Juan? I don't know the rest of it, but that's San Juan's day. Like there's a religious calendar that has a ton of saints, and they're born on this or that day. My dad was born on Saint Bartholomew Day, and my grandma almost named him Bartholomew. Instead, she named him Jorge. Imagine if they would have named him Bartholomew, then I would have been Professor Bart Herrera. That's not cool. So I'm glad they didn't name him Bartholomew, because then I would have gotten that name. Not that it's not a cool name, but I'm a little bit more happier with Jorge than I am with Bart, you know? So you get named based on the day you're born. That's the thing nowadays, like top 20 names for babies, you know, and it's like, nah, you get named based on the day you're born. My tia was born on Santa Elena's birthday, so my grandma named her Elena. Exactly. It always happens like that. If you're born on Santa Isabel, they name you Isabel and they call you Chabelita or whatever, but you're always born. When you're born, you're named after that day. So the Aztec calendar was also very similar. They have a very religious calendar. So imagine if I was born on whatever day, like I was born almost on December 12th, so like my grandma said I should have been named like Guadalupe, because that's a man's name too. I know many people named Patricia born on St. Patrick's Day. Exactly, right? So they want to name me not Patricio, Guadalupe, right? Because I was born by near like Guadalupe Day. So let's say I was born on that day, and my neighbor down the street from like many years ago was born on that day, and this baby I know over there was born on also that day, and we all have the same name. Like we're sort of like not cosmetic, cosmic like cousins, because we were born on that day. So it's something interesting to be born on the same day as a person, right? What do the people call it? Cosmetology or whatever, the study of like, see, I don't read that stuff. I'm a Sagittarius, but they say like astrology. Yeah, sorry, I was like way off. Cosmopolitanism, I don't even know, dude. Astrology, I was thinking about the study of, anyway, is that what it is? Astrology? You read your horoscope and all that stuff? Yeah. So okay, so like, see, people, if people nowadays believe in that, like, oh, like I can't date a Leo because they're toxic, or I don't know, I have no idea, right? Or Sagittarius are way too confident in themselves. I have to be with this person. I don't mix with the Aquarius or whatever. Like they already have that idea in their head, and they sometimes live their life based on that, right? And they read their sign and what it means, and they take that to heart, and they believe it, right? Just like you would believe like things that the Bible says, or things that the Aztec religion says, right? So there's all these things that we believe in, and back then people believed like if you're born on the same day as somebody else, you're like sort of like cosmically like related, right? Like the chances that your parents conceived you on this day, on that hour, to make you born here, like it's interesting, right? So that's why tocayo means, hey, you with the same name as me. I used to tour with the mariachi. Well, I kind of still do. Sometimes I played with them on Sunday, but I haven't toured in a long time with them. I toured with the mariachi. The owner was named Jorge, and I was the new guy, like brand new. And and he treated a lot of people like really bad, like crap, right? Like cuss him out and stuff. I guess that's how Mexicanos are, right? But when we were going on tour, he'd be like, Tocayo, siéntese aquí enfrente. Like, he'd be like, Tocayo, sit in front, when we were on the bus. And then people, I would assume they're like, oh, because he's new, not because I was new. Why did he have me? Why do you have so much like respect for me? Because we're like tocayos. Like, he doesn't call me Jorge, he calls me Tocayo, véngase pa acá, Tocayo, like Tocayo. I was in Hawaii one time at a conference. I went to the bar the very first night that I got there. It was like 10, 15 years ago. The guy's name was Andres. He served me my drink, and he's like, you wanna open up that tab? And I was like, yeah, just keep it open. Um and so when he served it, I saw his name, I was like, gracias, Tocayo. And he turned around and goes, Tocayo? We're Tocayos? I was like, yeah, yo también me llamo Andres, Jorge Andres. And then for the rest of the conference, I never paid for a drink as long as he was working. Because he, in his mind, was like, dude, that's an old word. Like, and these younger guys like using it, like that's so cool, man. And I guess like in Hawaii, maybe they don't use it or something, or maybe he hadn't heard it. But because we were tocayos, he gave me a drink. Don't try that at a bar and be like, what's the guy's name? Patrick? Hey, what's up, tocayo? And expect a free drink, because sometimes it doesn't happen that way, right? There are many things that have been mistranslated. So actually, before we get to this, there are words that we use every day, like carnal. What does carnal mean? Like carnal, carne, like your carne. So does it work for first and or last names? Well, last names are like No, not last names. It's like a first name thing, right? Because you don't get named on the day you were born based on your last name. If you have the same last name, then you're probably cousins. So you say primo or whatever, right? So it works for first names. Yeah, that's how you don't call someone tocayo if they have the same last name as you. You want to be cool? First and middle, yeah. You want to be cool and you call them primo. Yeah, anytime I would meet someone and they have Herrera, I'd be like, what's up, prima? What's up, primo? And they're not my primos or my primas, but it's just a thing. But yeah, if they have, you don't call them tocayos, it's a first or middle name, right? So, and male or female, people say tocaya as well. You know, like if someone was named Andrea or Georgina or something, I'm like, ¿Qué hubo, tocaya? My cousin calls older people with their name Tio and Tia. Like with the last name, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. You kind of like make them like family and stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, the same last name, your family. You
Yeah.
know? So
Where we're from, there's a lot of Orozcos. So like he's always screaming like, "Hey, tío, yeah, yeah, yeah," and it's like just somebody that normally buys food from him or something.
yeah, and they're not related. Like you guys ever seen the movie Coco when the guy goes into like the part where all the forgotten people are on and like Tia, primo, and then little Miguel says, These are all your relatives? He goes, no, that's what we call each other, you know. Like, ¿Qué hubo, primo? ¿Qué hubo? Like one of my buddies, I call him cuñado, and we're not cuñados, you know, we're not brothers-in-laws. I mean, there's other reasons why he calls me cuñado. I have a sister, and he's like, damn, your sister's pretty cuñado. And I'm like, shut up. But now he's married and she's married. Like 20 years later, we still call each other cuñado. And people look at us like, cuñado? I was like, well, I don't get it. I don't need to explain it. Anyway, so like words have a deep meaning in indigenous culture and in today too. So if you study the language, you actually understand things about indigenous culture that maybe you didn't think were true. So we think about, you guys ever heard of the word machismo? You guys know what machismo is? Like hyper masculine, like man dominating a woman or men dominating women. And I'll give you some examples. In Mexico, you have, but all over the world, you have machismo. Machismo is a word that sounds Mexican, so people assume machismo is Mexican. It's not. Like, do you ever go to like Panda Express and you can get like the 3-item combo? They don't call it the macho combo, right? You don't go to In and Out and the 4x4 is not called the macho burger, no. But I remember at like Mexican places like Del Taco had the macho burrito. Del Taco also had the macho card. I don't know if you guys were around back then, but like you buy a little card for $5 and you can like macho size all of your any combo that you wanted with that little card. It was kind of cool, you know. I wish he still had that. Like macho, I'm big, I'm bad, you know. I think you understand what macho means, right? So we're always under the impression that Mexico is very macho. Why? Because in Mexico you see, well, everywhere again, but you see a lot of examples of men who have a house with the wife and kids, but then they also have like somebody in the next son over with kids and somebody with the next son over and kids and stuff like that. Like one of my good buddies has like 24 kids or something like that. Something crazy like that. And I didn't even know. Thought he only had the 3 that I knew until one time, like at a wedding, all these kids showed up and I was like, who are all these dudes? And they're like, oh, those are like my brothers, I guess, from his other. So all of them? Well, those 3 are from that lady and those ones are from that one and this. And then your mom's okay with that? Well, you know how it is, right? They just stay quiet. Why are you gonna like ruin things? Let the guy do whatever he wants. That's machismo, right? That's one example though. Machismo is also like, hey, when I get home, I expect my dinner ready and stuff like that. I work as a teacher, so when I get home, I need to have like my beer ready so I can watch the Dodger game. And you're gonna stay at home not doing nothing even though she works all day. Machismo. You guys don't know what machismo is, right? So there's this idea, there's this misconception that machismo is from Mexico, right? But what happens in the Middle East? What happens there? That's not machismo. What happens in China? What happens in Japan? That's not much. Picture brides in Japanese. That's not machismo. What happens here in the United States? That's not machismo. It's everywhere. So don't think that it's from Mexico. In fact, traditionally, it wasn't from Mexico. They said that there's proof that one of our Aztec I don't know what you would call them, kings or whatever, was female at one point, because we found a statue, not we, archaeologists found a statue, and they had breasts on it. So they're like, wow, like they had female leaders. Have we had a female leader in the United States? I mean, we almost had Hillary Clinton, but we haven't had a female leader. We've been a nation for a long time. Has Mexico had one? You think, who do you think is going to go on first, us or Mexico? I think that's the easy answer, right? So I think we are. I don't know if Mexico's ready for a female leader. They don't even like, but who knows, right? It took us all this time to like get an African American president. We don't give minorities, women, and also like their status. And in Indigenous Mexico, they did give them their status, right? In fact, how do we prove that? Okay, there's a word for wife and there's a word for husband, but the word husband is ometecutli. Ome means two. Tecutli is the word, actually means señor. So dual or two señor or lord also, right? So if you read this, omesiwat is a female person in that relationship. So when they were translating, omesiwat means wife. Then they put that. Who's that woman next to you that you married? Omesiwat. Omesiwat means wife. Wife means subservient to her husband. Wife means wife. If you look up in the definition and the etymology, the history of that word, it means like subservient to her husband, right? And that's what they put as a definition. Ome again means dual. Siwat means senora or lord s, like female lord, right? So in that relationship, they're both lords. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Ome Siwat means dual lord. How is she a lord? Only because she's married to her husband. How is he a lord? Only because he's married to his wife. So they both have that status. In fact, there was a couple of people that had status in Mexico. I'm not talking about kings or anything. I'm talking about one married couples, right? They had status in Mexico. Two is do I have it here? Yes. Twins. How do you say twin in Spanish? Gemelo, but what's another one? Cuate. Cuate, like it says there. And that TE, if you change it to a TL, means coat. Coat, like the word Quetzalcoatl, right? Coat, as in cuate, means duality. Coat, I don't know if we have time to explain it. Maybe we do. We'll see if we do or not. But coat, okay, so twins are put on a pedestal like married people and like bisexual or gay or dual spirited people. Do we put gay people or bisexual people on a pedestal here in the US? Nah, we barely even give them a Pride Month. That's all they get. What month is it? We give them 1 month of the year. Just like African Americans, we give them 1 month. Like Hispanics, our month is starting in a couple weeks, you know? Like, you know, let's give these people February, let's give these people September, let's give these people whatever. Yeah, people still complain about getting June, right? Like I remember I saw a baseball hat on I thought it was funny. The San Francisco Giants had a color like a gay pride flag on their SF. Now that's cool. They actually, I think I don't know if they were on field. It makes sense, San Francisco, right? But not every team did it. And so when that hat got released, people were complaining like, why do they have to force their gayness on us? Why do they have to force sex? No one's forcing anything on anybody. Like just let people have their month at the very least. Like maybe for just 1 month, you can just shh. You know what I thought was funny though? The San Diego Padres also released a hat like that too. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen their hat. It has a SD on it, right? But they also have an alternate logo, which is a swinging priest, a swinging fraile, they call it. But it's a guy swinging a bat as a priest. So the priest was like pride colored. So when I saw it, I was like, because the Padre is like Catholic Church, and you know the Catholic Church and like Pride aren't like, they don't get along. So I was like, I wonder who made that hat. They didn't wear it on the field, by the irony, exactly how ironic of that. I thought that was hilarious, actually. So I was like, yeah, I don't know if they thought that one through. You know, Who approved that hat? People still don't like to give them their credit. Why? So I think maybe we'll end on this. Why are and if we have time to get to the rest of it, fine. If not, you can read it on your own. Why are married people put on a pedestal? Because you know, when you get married, that thing says the two of you have become one. Maybe you've been to a wedding ceremony. They say that. So it's like two people become one. So two is better than one. So put them on a pedestal. Twins, they shared an apartment for like 9 months before they were born, right? So they were in that womb. So they got something strange going on too. I had students who are twins in my class before. Some of them would be like, yeah, I don't feel anything. And I had other ones that would be like, dude, when she got in a car accident, I got like this huge pain in my arm and I had no idea. And she called me and said, I got in a car accident, I broke my right arm. And she's like, what the heck? Like I heard like so many stories like that. Or like baby twins, like one of them's getting tickled and this one's laughing for no reason, you know, like it's crazy. Anyway, I'm not a scientist and I don't think scientists could explain that even if they could. So twins are put on this pedestal. Also on top of that, people, you ever heard like the, not the new term, but it's starting to be used lately, dual spirited people, right? Like someone who is like bisexual, for example, or whatever, they have like two spirits in them. Me, like I am not bisexual, I have like one spirit, and like we're very narrow-minded. Like I like women and they have to be like this tall and that color hair and this or that feature and this or that feature, right? I'm like very, very narrow-minded. Or maybe you like, I like men and they have to look like this, and this, and then they have to be 6'4" with a mustache and all that. You have a shopping list, yes, exactly, dudes. But like, so we're very close-minded when it comes to that. Put like a handsome man in front of me, and like I don't have the urge to want to be in a relationship with that person, right? Because I only have like eyes for one certain thing. So the way they explain it is like people who are bisexual, like they can be maybe with a woman, but they can also might be able to be with like opposite sex, right? So they have like their world is a lot more open than mine, for example, right? So because they have that, it's almost like if they have two spirits inside of them, you know. And again, what are we putting up on a pedestal? All these things have one thing in common: duality. People who encompass duality, like married couples, like twins, like people who are bisexual or dual spirited, they're put on a pedestal. So let's talk about machismo for a second. It did not exist in indigenous Mexico. And one of the big clues as to why it didn't is because we gave women Omesiwat. She's a lordess, right? She's a lord. This wife is a lord. That's one example. If you just analyze the language, like I've been saying, you can learn a lot about your culture. What about that statue with the breast that was found that shows that we had women leaders, right? So machismo wasn't a thing in indigenous Mexico. So then why did Mexico become so macho? All right, there's a lot of articles. I don't think we're going to read one in this class that discusses it, but I'll give you the big summary. So when the Spaniards came over, we're not saying it was a Spaniard thing either, that they brought her over. What I'm saying is when the Spaniards came over, there's examples of like men who didn't want to like convert to Christianity because, you know, imagine someone just coming into your house and be like, all right, all of a sudden you're Muslim, or all of a sudden you're Catholic, or all of a sudden you're this or that. It's like, nah, my whole life I've been this. Like, you can't change me. So there's a lot of people that fought the change, right? So there's examples of indigenous men being tied to a tree, having to watch their wives and daughters get raped and beat up. And that's probably got to be the worst feeling in the world, knowing that you cannot help somebody who is so helpless in that situation, like you having to see that. So there's this author by the name of Alfredo Mirande who talked about that and says, like, you know, after you see that, like this anger is birthed in you, and you have like the desire to like overprotect every female that's around you, which machismo also does. I have friends who say, "Oh, my wife is never. She's at home. She doesn't work. Why? Because I don't want her meeting another guy and like leaving me, or I don't let her go to school because, I guess people have school during. I have people have sex during the classroom or something like that. Like I don't know, all these different ideas. Like they don't want that. They want to control everything. I'm protecting her, right? So they're saying they have all these ideas that kind of goes back to many years ago. It's like they over protect people, right? And you can think, well, protection is a good thing too. Well, yes, but it's protection based on fear, right? It's not based on like love and support. You get what I'm saying? There's a difference between that. Like, does your family fear you or does your family respect you? There's differences in that, right? And a lot of this fear comes from your own insecurities, like those men that are tied up and you can't do nothing about it, right? Like I have my sister-in-law that lives with me. I'm afraid for her, but I'm not gonna like keep her indoors all the time. That would be an insecurity of mine. I raise her with the idea that she would be a good grown woman and make right choices, right, for her own self and her own body. And you just have to like have that trust. Like you have to trust that your partner, girlfriend or boyfriend or wife or husband or whatever can go to work and just go to work and not like hook up with the secretary or the boss or whatever, right? So a lot of these like insecurities that are like inside of you, people say are generational, and they come from many years of that dated back to when like the Spaniards and the indigenous people clashed together. So that's why machismo became a thing in Mexico, right? And we're trying to fight it, but it's not happening for the most part in Mexico. Like Mexico was one of the first places where they actually legalized like gay marriage before even the United States did it. But what does that mean? That's just what they say. That's like if I wear like a pride bracelet or something, and but I hate gay people. Like like I wear the bracelet though. Ah, but you don't like appreciate them. You don't like accept them. You get what I'm saying? It's just like they just put pen to paper and be like, yeah, we allow gay marriages, but why do so many people come out in the United States versus Mexico? We have more gays in the United States. No, it's probably equal all over the world in every culture. But in Mexico, like you get beat up for that stuff, right? It's still not accepted out there. Same as here, but it's far worse out in Mexico. So you're gonna stay quiet about it. Like we'll talk about Juan Gabriel because it's a music class. Sometimes people ask, why didn't he ever like come out? First of all, Juan Gabriel's answer is like, what does it matter to you who I like? First of all. But second of all, it's like, we don't need to discuss that question ever, but let's just discuss it. Maybe he didn't come out because you have generations of people who like dislike and oppose gay relationship and people, right? Like I think there was a poll in Mexico that said like 80% of the people would kick out their son if their son said that he was gay, right? And then they did another poll where it's like 80 or 90% of gay youth have suffered some sort of like trauma by their family after they told them that they were gay. Like it's not accepted in Mexico. So you can legalize it all you want. It doesn't mean anything, right? But maybe if you really want to be Mexican, like if you really want to be a Mexicano, I'm a Mexicano. We don't like gay people and we're macho. Well, if you're a real Mexicano, machismo did not exist back then. And gay people were put up on a pedestal. So go put your gay son or your neighbor or yourself on a pedestal, right? And if you really want to be Mexican, because that's how we were years ago, right? So let's see. I think we'll sort of like stop it here. I wanted to really talk about Quetzalcoatl, but maybe we'll talk about it next time. But you can read the rest of it. It's only like another paragraph or so. So let me stop sharing this. These notes that I had right there are also put on I've already made them available on Canvas. So if you check out Canvas, um let's go to this student view. If you check out Canvas, you're gonna see the discussion. The discussion again is, what do all these things mean? Give me a quick sentence, and then give me a question you have about the 16 conclusions of Aztec music. What are those? Well, they're right here. It's very short, which I think we might go over them next week. Make it very short. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Very short, right? And then the longer reading is Aztec language and Spanish. So it talks about the language. I told you, know about your language, your indigenous language, and 9 pages, but it's really not that long. The last half is like a bibliography or something. And then the notes that we just discussed and went over are right here. So I think we stopped around like we were talking about the respect shown in indigenous Mexico and what it has to do with duality. So yeah, learning about your past will teach you about yourself. So I think we'll probably lecture. I'll just say now we'll lecture next week and type any loose ends of indigenous music. I'll go over the conclusions so we understand them fully. Yeah, we will lecture this week. And just so keep it in your calendar. Maybe the week after we won't do it. So not every lecture, not every Thursday there's a lecture. Sometimes I'll preload it or pre-record it, like I've mentioned before. And sometimes we'll go live. In the case that we go live and you can attend, then it'll always be recorded, just like in this case. So that reminds me to stop the recording soon. Anybody have any questions before I stop the recording? I mean, you could ask after I stop.